And China's president tonight is congratulating President-elect Trump, saying that Washington and Beijing got to find a way to get along. The relationship between these two countries has been at its lowest point in decades over fights over trade, technology, Taiwan. And there's some worries in China over President-elect Trump's pledge to slap tariffs on all imports and something like 60 to 100% on stuff coming in from China. Janice Mackey-Freyer is joining us now. As if we haven't heard enough about tariffs, Janice, we're about to hear even more about them come January once President-elect Trump is inaugurated. There's real concern about this, not just on the part of China, but experts here in the United States who worry about a trade war being triggered.
Well, like much of the world, Hallie, China is trying to figure out what Trump 2.0 means for relations with the U.S. And in a word, what it means for China is tariffs. President-elect Trump is intent on expanding the trade friction with China that he launched in his first term as president, with 60% tariffs on all Chinese imports, like pretty much everything. Before, the tariffs were in the 7 to 25% range, and China's economy is now in a much more vulnerable position. And there's also concern here that this could lead to the decoupling of the two economies, which would have a devastating impact in both countries. China's economy is hurting right now, and the leadership here doesn't have a lot of wiggle room. Exports have been propping up the economy since COVID. Consumer spending is still weak. Businesses aren't investing either. So a new wave of tariffs with one of its largest trading partners is no small matter for Beijing, at a time when there are also trade headwinds with Europe. The expectation here is that relations are going to remain bad anyway, and there's no reason for Trump to not follow through on tariffs because they were such a big part of his campaign. And so China has been preparing its toolkit, so to speak, and Xi's message signals that there's nothing to lose from trying to soften the blow with the sort of personal politics that Trump has favored with certain types of leaders before. And it's also going to be very interesting to see if Beijing leans on Elon Musk to act as a buffer, given how deeply invested he is here with his business and with Chinese officials. Hallie?
We've seen sanctions against China for its implied support for Russia's war in Ukraine. There's North Korean troops in Russia right now. Talk about this sort of triad, if you will, China, Russia, North Korea, the relationship between those three and what it means for the U.S.
Well, it isn't clear how Trump is going to approach issues like Russia, North Korea, and the war in Ukraine without Beijing's help. The world is a much different place since his last presidency, in particular with North Korea. It has more advanced weapons. It's blown up roads to South Korea. And Kim Jong-un is emboldened by this new strategic partnership he has with Russia, which makes even Beijing a little nervous. I had a chance to ask U.S. Ambassador Nicholas Burns about this, and he confirms the U.S. is talking to Chinese officials here about North Korean troops. Here's what he said.
We've talked to the Chinese leadership about that. And obviously we would hope that China would use its influence, it doesn't appear that they are, with the Russian government to cease and desist. But I don't think that's happening. It's unfortunate.
Analysts and advisors to the government here say, yeah, they're concerned about Trump's unpredictability, but they also don't mind that Trump is transactional in his politics, because that's how China works, too. And so Trump saying that he could end the Ukraine war in 24 hours was the one point that people picked up on here, everyone I talked to in the lead up to the election. China knows it has some leverage in that sense. And if you look at all of the key foreign policy issues, Hallie, for the U.S., Russia, North Korea, Ukraine, Iran, the Middle East, Taiwan. There are no straight lines between them, but all of the dots connecting those key issues go through Beijing. Hallie?
Janice Mackey-Freyer, thank you very much.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.